Hey everybody, thanks for tuning in to the Voices of Orion project. What I want to talk about tonight is timeline consciousness simulations and parallel timelines. And what I want to tell you is this has been derived from 48 years of extraterrestrial contact, both individually and as a group experiencer. I have to apologize. I'm having medication side effects, so I've got a lot of phlegm in my throat, and my voice is hoarse, and my throat's dry, ironically, so I don't know how that works. But we're going to try to get this done, and hopefully I can pull it off. Okay. First of all, I want to lay down some rules here about the source consciousness, and what I want to tell you is that, first of all, everything is consciousness. That's the key to understanding this. The best way to understanding our reality is to see it through the perspective that it's just a product of thoughts in an imagination of an infinite mind. So that's the best way to look at it. And what a timeline is, and I'm going to represent a timeline by this piece of bamboo right here. So what a timeline is a series of thoughts. It's a stream of thoughts in the mind of Source. Now, this timeline is infinite. It doesn't end. So this is essentially a never-ending story in the mind of Source. A parallel timeline exists right in the same space, because space and time really are just an illusion. So what we have here is timeline 2. Now, there's a lot of talk about people going from one timeline to another and altering the course of history without anyone in this timeline knowing about it. That's not the way it works. The rules of the source consciousness is that one, source does not forget, which is why we are eternal. Once we are conceived of, we never die, we never go away. We are always an infinite memory in the source consciousness. So not only can thoughts within the source consciousness not be forgotten, they also cannot be overwritten. So in other words, someone in, say, timeline 1 can't go into timeline 2 and change everything without anybody knowing it. Also, you cannot go into the past to change the present. And you cannot go into the future. Well, you can go into the future, but of course the future is undecided, so you'll hit many different variable timelines or variable outcomes within the same timeline. Sorry about that. Ignore I said that. So let's do a little exercise here. Let's just say that you're the Galactic Federation and you're on this timeline here and you want to access a different timeline. So in the timeline you're in, everything's at peace. There's no wars between the reptilians and the Orion group. It's all good. But you want to create, or actually you want to access a timeline that is over here that everyone's at war. So there's different things taking place. So let's just say you take some people from timeline 1, which is the peaceful timeline, and you put them in timeline 2. What's going to happen? Well, if you remember what I said, memories in the source consciousness cannot be overwritten. So what that means is that by attempting to cross into this timeline, you've actually created a third independent timeline, which is comprised of the events of the two timelines at the point of their convergence and then forward from there. So now you've got this third timeline. And the way the extraterrestrials use these timelines is this third timeline now becomes a timeline consciousness simulation. Because what they've done is they've accessed the timeline that had the appropriate scenario they were looking for to put people into it. But once they began to put people into it, they created another timeline. So this is now a new memory of source. And this allows them to externally manipulate this timeline and utilize it for planetary social engineering purposes, as well as for starseed rehabilitation, which involves an engineered lifetime experience. And I know a contactee who has a memory where the Galactic Federation had put him in an engineered lifetime on a different timeline. And this can be done as well. And if you're familiar with the secret space program, you have these people, these whistleblowers, coming forward and saying that, hey, I was abducted, I was put into an alternative timeline, I spent 20 years there, and I was returned back to the point of abduction at the time of my abduction, which is during my childhood. So I woke up in my bed, a changed person. And what is it? Tony Rodriguez has a fantastic book out. I haven't read it, but if you haven't heard of Tony, look into him. Also look into Randy Kramer and anything that has to do with the secret space program. And there's plenty of other whistleblowers coming forward to give their testimony. It's fascinating stuff. It's also been validated by the Farsight Institute. They did a remote viewing project on Tony Rodriguez and validated everything that he said. So anyway, what they're doing with these abductees that are being taken for 20 years is they're essentially barring their consciousness. Tony Rodriguez did not leave physically, enter some type of a time loop, and then was returned back at the exact point of abduction by manipulating time. In fact, what they did essentially is they took a piece of his consciousness. And this is the same process that they use when they fracture your soul, or fracture your consciousness, and create an avatar. And that avatar is sent here to Earth for you to have an engineered lifetime. That's why you have a lower self and a higher self. The lower self is a piece of the higher self. So in the case of Tony Rodriguez, that's exactly what they did. They broke a piece off the higher self, created an avatar, put that avatar on a parallel timeline in a cloned body, and then he was put into the secret space program along with many other people. If you die in this parallel timeline, it doesn't affect the timeline you're on. That piece will simply return back to the whole of the person's soul. So the fragment will go back to the higher self. So if Tony Rodriguez died in his experience on the parallel timeline, he would not die in this timeline, is what I'm telling you. But his mission would end sooner, and that's how that works. So I hope you learned something from this. I'm going to be doing a lot more videos like this. I'm going to be breaking things down in little bits and pieces. And of course, there's going to be longer videos that are more complicated. Sort of to say that since I've become terminally ill, I've got a new source of inspiration. And I'm ready to damn the consequences and get this information out to the public as quickly as I possibly can. And hopefully people will get something from it. Hopefully people will see it. So in other words, if you see this video and it resonates with you, please click the like button so YouTube can take down the likes and subtract it. But, just do it anyway, even though they're going to take the likes. And please share this video, because that's where it really counts. Sharing this video on social media to people who need to see it. And tell them to subscribe to this channel, because I'm going to have a lot more information like this coming forward each and every day that I feel up to doing videos. So, I'll see you guys soon. Take care.